Brothers and sisters, stop everything. What I am about to reveal is not just another political drama, it is the story of a continental turning point, the moment when one man's refusal to kneel transformed the destiny of millions. It was a night like no other in Ouagadougou. The capital of Burkina Faso was wrapped in silence. The city lights faint, the dusty streets empty, the night air heavy with stillness. But inside the presidential residence, the silence was shattered by a phone call that would test the limits of sovereignty, dignity, and survival. The clock read 3:17 a.m. The shrill ring of the secure red phone jolted the guards awake. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, president of Burkina Faso, rose from his desk. He had been awake already, working through intelligence reports, scanning dossiers of foreign interference, and preparing strategies for food security. But nothing could prepare him for what came next. He lifted the receiver. A voice sliced through the static, sharp, impatient, and utterly cold. "Captain Traoré, you have exactly 48 hours. It was Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, not a diplomat, not an ambassador, not a messenger, the man himself. The ultimatum." The words that followed dripped with arrogance. The arrogance of an empire used to issuing commands. Reinstate our surveillance partnerships. Reverse your decisions against Israeli mining contracts. Restore what you have broken. Do this immediately, or you will face two choices. Choice 1, flee your country like a coward. Choice 2, surrender your presidency and leave your people to us. Two choices. Like a master speaking to a slave, a false freedom, an insult disguised as diplomacy. The silence that followed was deafening. Traoré gripped the receiver, his jaw set. He didn't shout, he didn't plead. He let Netanyahu's words hang in the air, like the stench of colonial arrogance lingering too long. Finally, Traoré answered, "Mr. Prime Minister, Burkina Faso is not a plantation. I will not crawl, I will not bow, and I will not betray my people because a foreign leader threatens me at night. Your 48 hours begin now, not mine." And he hung up. The world's most feared caller had been silenced with a click. The first hours, hour 1 to 6. The ultimatum was not private for long. Within the first hour, encrypted leaks appeared on local radio networks. Journalists whispered of a foreign ultimatum. Anonymous voices online declared, "Traoré has been threatened." By hour 2, the story reached the markets of Ouagadougou. Sellers of millet and sorghum dropped their baskets mid-transaction. Taxi drivers repeated the words to passengers. The rumor spread like wildfire. They gave him 48 hours. By hour 3, the military council convened in an emergency meeting. Advisors warned, "Sir, this is not an empty threat. Economic warfare could begin tonight. Cyber attacks are possible. They could cut our banks, paralyze communications." But Traoré was calm. His reply shocked them. "Then let them attack. Let them show their hand. Every threat exposes the enemy more than it weakens us." By hour 4, the first signs appeared. Internet disruptions flickered across the capital. Suspicious hacking attempts targeted the central bank servers. But the newly built cybersecurity unit, staffed by young Burkina engineers trained in Russia and Ghana, fought back. For every attack, a firewall rose. For every virus, a counterpatch appeared within minutes. By hour 5, voices of fear and defiance collided on social media. Some said, "Why provoke Israel? Why risk it all?" Others replied, "Better risk war than live on our knees." By hour 6, the sun began to rise, and with it, something more powerful than any weapon, the will of the people. The morning after, hour 7 to 9, the morning of the ultimatum felt different. The sky itself seemed heavier, but the people of Burkina Faso were not hiding. They were gathering. At hour 7, students at the University of Ouagadougou marched to the gates with handwritten placards. 48 hours? We've survived 400 years. Burkina Faso will never surrender. By hour 8, women in the markets raised their voices. Their slogans echoed through the alleys. "We are not for sale. Our gold, our soil, our children belong to us, not Tel Aviv." By hour 9, the first wave of foreign news broke out. Al Jazeera carried whispers of an ultimatum. African media outlets speculated. France 24 spoke cautiously, not daring to confirm. But in Ouagadougou, confirmation was unnecessary. The people already knew. And so, they gathered by the thousands outside the presidential palace, not in fear, but in solidarity. They wanted Netanyahu to know, "If you touch Traoré, you touch all of us." Midday heat, hour 10 to 12. The heat of midday was intense, but so was the fire in people's hearts. By hour 10, the diaspora began to react. Burkina communities in Paris, New York, and Abidjan lit up social media with live videos. "If our president falls, we rise in every city." By hour 11, African leaders received the news. In Bamako, Mali's transitional government issued a quiet but firm statement. We stand with Burkina Faso. An attack on Ouagadougou is an attack on Bamako by hour 12. The ultimatum was no longer just Netanyahu versus Traoré. It had become a symbol, the symbol of Africa's right to decide its own leaders, its own future. As the sun reached its peak, Traoré stepped to a window overlooking the massive crowds. He saw young men with drums, women with babies strapped to their backs, elders with raised fists. He saw, not fear, but unity. He turned to his generals and said, Netanyahu thought he gave me 48 hours, but look outside, Burkina Faso has already answered. By the 13th hour, the streets of Ouagadougou were overflowing. The crowd outside the presidential palace had grown from hundreds to thousands. Entire families arrived with mats and water bottles, determined to hold vigil. Children clutched miniature flags, their voices high-pitched but fearless. Burkina Faso est libre. Inside the palace, advisors argued fiercely. Some urged restraint. Sir, he controls too many levers of power. Sanctions could suffocate us in days. Others demanded defiance. We cannot bend, or Africa will never forgive us. Your courage has already ignited the continent. Traoré listened silently, then cut through their voices. This ultimatum is not about Israel versus Burkina Faso. It is about whether Africa can be free. If I surrender, I betray not only my people, but Mali, Niger, Chad, Congo, and every African yet unborn. Hour 14. The Students' Declaration. At hour 14, students filled Independence Square. They drafted a manifesto overnight, declaring, "We will not leave the streets until the ultimatum expires. If our president falls, we, the youth, will govern ourselves. Africa must not be commanded at midnight by foreign powers." Copies of the manifesto circulated on WhatsApp, Facebook, and Telegram. The digital flood carried it from Ouagadougou to Lagos, from Dakar to Kinshasa. Within hours, hashtags like number 48 hours of defiance and number Traoré stands trended across the continent. Hour 15, the diaspora rises. Burkinabe workers in Paris gathered outside the Israeli embassy, waving signs, "Hands off Burkina Faso." In New York, the African diaspora rallied at Times Square, chanting, "Traoré's Africa, Africa's Traoré." Every chant was filmed, shared, amplified. The world was beginning to notice. This was not an isolated quarrel. It was a continental storm. Hour 16. The media war. By hour 16, international media scrambled. CNN cautiously reported. Unconfirmed reports suggest tensions between Israel and Burkina Faso. Al Jazeera was bolder. Sources confirm ultimatum delivered to Traoré. RT and Press TV framed it as a new chapter of African defiance. France 24, however, attempted spin. Burkina Faso risks destabilization due to reckless leadership, but Africans saw through it. The comment sections erupted, "Why reckless? He's defending sovereignty." Hour 17. The second call at hour 17, the red phone rang again. Netanyahu's voice was sharper, filled with contempt. "Captain, you now have 31 hours remaining. Do not mistake temporary cheers for real power. Your people will suffer if you persist. Think carefully before condemning them to unnecessary pain." Traoré exhaled slowly, then answered, "Prime Minister, let me save you more hours. My decision will not change. I will not surrender. I will not flee. And I will not betray the millions who trust me. You do not understand what you face." Netanyahu sneered, "And you do not understand the machinery I control." Traoré replied, "I understand perfectly. You are trying to remove a leader chosen by his people so you can continue stealing what is not yours. But you have miscalculated. You forgot to ask my people what they want. Listen closely." He lowered the phone, held it toward the balcony. Through the receiver thundered the chants of thousands, "Traoré, Traoré, Burkina Faso forever." Netanyahu said nothing. The line went dead. Hour 18. Cyber chaos. Almost instantly, the counterattack began. At hour 18, Burkina Faso's national broadcaster was hacked. A fake bulletin announced, "Traoré resigns." For 15 minutes, panic rippled. But then the truth came crashing back. Traoré appeared live on radio, his voice unwavering. "I am here. I am not resigning. Do not believe their lies. They are desperate because their ultimatum is already failing." The crowd outside roared with relief. Hour 19. The economic strangulation. Banks reported sudden freezes on international transfers. The franc weakened. Rumors spread of looming shortages. Western analysts predicted collapse. But local markets told a different story. Farmers from the countryside arrived with carts of millet, cassava, sorghum. They shouted, "We will feed our people before we feed foreign corporations." The crisis was turning into a new kind of economy, survival by solidarity. Hour 20. The women speak at hour 20. Women marched at the front lines, carrying babies on their backs, pots on their heads, chanting songs of defiance. "We carried wood for the revolution. We will carry water for the resistance." If they touch Traoré, they touch our wombs, our children, our land. Images of their march spread globally, disarming even the harshest critics. Hour 21, the soldiers' vow. Traoré summoned his commanders. The generals saluted and spoke in unison. Sir, we are not protecting your chair. We are protecting Burkina Faso. Even if they bomb the palace, we will fight from the ruins. This ultimatum will die before you do. The vow was recorded, leaked, and went viral. The army stood with the people. Hour 22, Africa reacts. Statements began pouring in. Mali, touch Traoré, and you touch Mali. Niger, Burkina Faso does not stand alone. Chad, this is an attack on African sovereignty itself. Even South Africa, cautious for years, issued a warning. Foreign ultimatums to African leaders belong to the past. The tide was turning. Hour 23, the night march. As darkness fell, torches lit the streets. Thousands marched through Ouagadougou, their flames flickering against the night sky. They chanted, "We are the shield. We are the fire." 48 hours will pass, but Traoré will remain. The sound echoed through the capital like a living heartbeat. Hour 24, the halfway point. At the 24th hour, half the ultimatum was gone. No resignation, no surrender. Instead, the movement had grown larger than anyone imagined. On the palace balcony, Traoré spoke to the people. "Brothers and sisters, the first day has ended. They thought fear would silence us. But look at you. Farmers, students, mothers, soldiers, all united. Tomorrow the world will know. Africa cannot be commanded. We decide our future." The crowd erupted, louder than any ultimatum. The first 24 hours had not broken Burkina Faso. They had broken Netanyahu's illusion of control. Hour 25, the fabricated fall. As the 25th hour struck, television screens across West Africa flickered with breaking news banners. Traoré toppled, interim council installed. The footage showed blurred clips of soldiers storming a palace, gunshots echoing. Panic rippled for a brief moment. Could it be true? Had the resistance collapsed in the night? But within